Let's take a look at some information and charts on EOS for Brave New Coin. Lots of tough love in this video coming up, so prepare yourself, temper your expectations. Let's start with the EOS market cap on Brave New Coin here. Let's scroll down the list. Still don't see it. Still don't see it. Let's hit load more. Never a good sign. Still don't see it. Oh, there it is. Sub 4 billion now. Interesting. It was in the top 10, top 5 for the longest time. It's now under Monero, under Tron, under DOT, under this junk ICP, which is worthless. A lot of this stuff on here needs a grand culling. Doge, BNB has a reckoning coming for it soon. But EOS has lost a significant market share over the past year. And Block 1, the company responsible for the ICO, has 5.6 billion in their treasury, last reported. So how low are they going to let this thing go, is the question. Are they going to just let it die? Are they going to let EOS die while holding 5.5 billion in their treasury? Or are they going to try to do something? Now they announced that bullish global exchange, which is the stupidest name I can think of. Imagine having a list of 10 names and picking that one. I mean, what are they thinking? Just screams scam. It screams desperation. It's like Long Island blockchain iced tea or whatever it was. Just the stupidest thing they could have done in a branding perspective. But anyway, so market cap's in trouble. At a bare minimum, the market as a whole is signaling we don't care about EOS anymore. Here's transaction counts and block counts, kind of the few metrics I can even look at for EOS that Coinmetrics has. I say this a lot with on-chain metrics, but anytime we see spikes like this, 50%, 20% pop and drop like this, a lot of this is bot activity and not necessarily people. This activity here is much more people-looking activity, slow crawl, creep up and down. And over the past month, we're approaching that crazy bot activity again. I don't know what this is exactly for EOS. It doesn't necessarily matter in the broad scheme of things. It just points to a significant degree of shenanigans going on with their transaction counts, which are around 4 million, if that's to be believed. Something else you always have to look at with proof of stake is what are the top block producers? Where are they located? Is there a geographic decentralization there? Are their interests decentralized? Are most of these exchanges? Are most of these independent groups of people? So really, most of these are still in Asia. Most of these are still exchanges. And that's certainly problematic and a foreshadowing of things to come for ETH. Now, ETH probably won't be as centralized on some of these metrics for block producers. But being as though this is proof of stake day, I'll be talking about Tezos in a second. The same critique applies. You don't want governance decided by a very specific type of people. You don't want governance being exposed to regulatory risk from places like China. I mean, we're seeing that with BTC on the mining aspect of things. And it's only a matter of time that they start cracking down on stuff like this, where they're just going to start swinging for every single crypto thing that isn't their own central bank digital currency. So that's coming. OKEx, Huobi, Binance, no one will be spared. And it's only a matter of time before this stuff, they start to target stuff like this as well, in my opinion. So watch out for that. And I don't know the number of full nodes on the chain. I don't know the size of the full nodes on the chain. I don't even know if there's a single full node on the chain, which again is problematic for decentralization. All of these likely run partial nodes, but I don't know how many of them actually run a full node that holds all of the chain data since day one. Here are the dApps on EOS. User counts look okay, if they're to be believed. Volumes, though, are extremely low for the most part. We can try to sort by volume. Mostly DEXs, some scammy stuff, gambling, the usual like low-hanging fruit, early dApp sort of stuff. The next level of dApps would be DeFi-related things, which despite the fees on EOS being basically zero, very little DeFi is migrated or even attempted to be included on EOS. I don't know of any large ETH player who's using EOS or thinking about incorporating EOS. Not 1inch, Not any of the exchanges. Nobody's saying, man, I can't wait. Here's Bancor X. Maybe that's one, but I don't know. Nobody's excited about EOS in any way. There's nothing that you can point to that's like, oh, EOS does this and is doing this better than anybody else. So that's problematic. Fundamentals are atrocious for EOS. Here's the US dollar chart since inception. And since 2018, it's basically been held within this range. VPVR is telling you there's a ton of support, sub 3 down to 230. If you're just buying range highs, or range lows, selling range highs, that's certainly one way to do this. Yearly pivot down there at 3 as well. Below that, it's 75 cents. Volume's still not too excitable on Bitfinex, one of the few places that actually trades EOS. And the MA multiplier hasn't ever really reached in overbought territory since this thing got listed. So it's never really proven itself beyond the initial mania that it can really do anything. It had some mania in January along with everything else, but it still didn't get to that 20 level on the multiplier. So again, as far as the range is concerned, 250 looks fine. Here's another thing that's problematic. Longs on Bitfinex are basically continuing to hemorrhage since January when they hit all-time highs. Always a sign that some bullish exuberance is weakening. Shorts basically non-existent. So that's the ultimate die in the dark, is to watch OI just creep slowly to multi-year lows, which it is right now. It's basically at 2018 levels. Not a lot of people looking to EOS for long on Bitfinex, it seems. Here's the 5200 cross, which the death cross historically has been pretty good at telling you we're going lower. And despite this being down over 50% from the top, that's the problem with a lot of this stuff. It'll outperform BTC on both sides of the coin, right? When it has its euphoria insanity, it'll go from 3 to 15 plus, but it'll also lose all of that faster than BTC will. This is the wrong metaphor, but no honor among thieves is what comes to mind here. Nobody wants to hold on to this stuff. It's just hot potato. Musical chairs. As soon as the music stops, everybody is just done. So this doesn't look, trend-wise doesn't look bullish, and just the multi-year range obviously isn't helping that situation. And here's the cloud, which it almost looks bad enough to buy. I mean, anything that's down 80% this quickly, I don't know the exact percent, but it just looks horrendously bad. And the cloud is telling you on the daily, this is probably one of the biggest TKC clamps that you're going to see. And you see this when you get this Eiffel Tower straight up, straight down. I mean, this had several Eiffel Towers. It had a multiverse worth of Eiffel Towers, along with this head and shoulders. So none of this is saying that any of this was bullish, obviously, at this point. But maybe you're counting on some sort of W here in the middle of a range historically as support. And again, it looks bad enough to buy at this point. EOS-BTC, this is why Bitcoin maximalism exists for charts like this. Since 2018, it's only lost value against BTC. Trend metrics have been on your side the whole time for more down. You're getting another death cross here. It's basically bounce or die. Bounce at all-time lows at around 6K sats, or it's just game over. You're hoping for some sort of massive capitulation volume that makes headlines. You're hoping for some rage quit of some developer, something, in order to signal that this is really bottoming against BTC, because right now it's just going to keep bleeding. Very reminiscent of the Zcash chart. Very similar type of TA. You can pop on a pitchfork, downtrending, and it's pretty simple until it gets into the blue area or less. It's just a void, a strong avoid. We did have this W here. This was a multi-month W double bottom plus bullish divergence. You're getting lower lows there. So this is the type of stuff you want to see when you get confident that there's going to be some sort of reaction to the upside, because otherwise the bleed continues, right? It doesn't end. And against ETH, it looks even worse. It almost certainly looks like it's headed for new all-time lows, even though it's trying to put in a bullish divergence here. All the volume historically on Bitfinex has been down here, and it's retraced the listing, right? It's 2017, all the way back down. And when you compare the fundamentals, it's obvious why it's done so. EOS has just failed to deliver anything against Ethereum based on devs, based on dApps, based on user numbers. ease of use, interoperability, right? And the list goes on and on and on. So it makes sense that the ETH killer has been unable to do anything relative to ETH. And since Feb 2020, that was your exit signal. Again, death cross. It's been nothing but down ever since. People make fun of the death crosses and golden crosses a lot, but when you look at stuff like this, it's like, okay, this is why people say be cautious when you see stuff like this. You obviously don't know the extent or duration of the trend, but it's a very clear sign that things are in trouble when you get a death cross like that. And it's been below the cloud since the same period in time. Hasn't been above the cloud ever since then. It hasn't closed above the cloud anyway. And if we're trying to measure some move as far as lower lows against ETH, I like 80K or whatever this is, 76K, as far as a potential 1618 fib extension between, let's call this a head and shoulders or something, whatever it is, it's not good. Definitely looks like it's going lower. It will have a bull div, most likely, against ETH, but you can see how many months it just held this oversold, right? Like the market didn't care. It was just EOS is bad, ETH is better sort of scenario. So I got nothing good to say about EOS. I think it's one of those coins that eventually just goes to zero slowly, like Zcash. It'll have its pump and dump moments, but historically in the past 4 years, it's done nothing. It's had a ton of head start against ETH moving to proof of stake. You know, maybe if ETH collapses on proof of stake, it'll be better for things like EOS, which have just stumbled. Lastly, I'll mention the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio I trade for Techemy Capital on Enzyme.finance, non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can deposit ETH or USDC or just watch what I'm doing. Everything's transparent. AUM, allocations, trades, performance. You can see that I'm mostly in Aave, USDC on both ETH-BTC fund and DeFi side of things, until trend metrics start to look better, until on-chain stuff starts to look better, until this quarterly rollover happens, until China fully washes out everybody in the BTC side of things. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.